Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Thuy Linh, a youth advocate for climate change. So now let's get started. Okay, so I have a wedding cake. What will happen if we eat the cake from its bottom? Such a silly question, right? But let's just try. 1 spoon of cake, but then 3, 4, 5, and so on spoons of cake. The cake may be slightly leaned due to the instability of the basement of the cake, which later on affects the whole cake in the upper level. That is also like the integrated spheres or integrated layer, interdependent layer, when it's come to a broad Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG, of the United Nations. The cake base that we have just eaten is the environmental layer, which later on have like the unbalance and instability, affects the instability of the society layer in the middle of the cake, and then the economy in the upper layers. And the last one is the partnership driving sustainability as the top of the cake. If we have just accidentally eat some species of cake in the lowest level of the wedding cakes, it is not too late to stop your eating and then take a quick look at the balance of the cake. And it is also not too late to stop our negative impacts on the environment, which later on affects our existence as a whole. However, the distance between the perception and the actions is quite a long process that we may need a blend to drive, to lessen the gap between the perception and the action. So, the question now is, what will we do in the self-driving flight? So, be a captain and be a leader. There are 3 levels of leaderships for climate change, according to my perception of leadership in the real world. The first level is leading myself, leading ourselves. The second level is leading ourselves to the sustainability of the relationships among people. And the last leadership level is creating a social impact. So with the first level, we lead ourselves to raising our voice on the innovative definitions or a new way of understanding climate change. Why the definition first? Passenger on the flight, please take a second, just a quick second, to define what is climate change in your mind. Well, people always say that climate change is the rise of the temperature, is the rise of the sea level, is the melting ice, or is the burning forest. Climate change is not commonly defined with the human responsibility, but the environmental consequences that misleads us to the concept that climate change is bad by its nature. And we are not the factors who have to be involved in the solution or who have to be involved in the macro problems. I have just read an article online which say that climate change is not a chart scan itself when it is defined as a place containing all kinds of consequences that created by people. So, instead, let's change a little bit of a definition for climate change. Maybe it could be climate change is largely due to the human activities like burning fossil fuel, like the disposing of waste to the environment, which release the atmosphere, to quickly release the Earth's atmosphere, the greenhouse gases emission. And with the sustainability inside themselves, when we have like the right perception for climate change, we feel that we want to do something to tackle this kind of transboundary problems, not we have to do something about that. After the sustainability of the individual is consolidated, I lead myself to the second level of leadership, which is like leading yourself to a dialogue for climate change, for climate actions, so that we can raise awareness of people about how can we tackle climate change. Well, it is such a bullet point on the paper, right? When we ask this question, how can we tackle climate change? The teachers may say to your children, with the responding to this question is that to tackle climate change, you should plant more trees, you should recycle more, or you should reduce the use of single plastic or single paper. It's still in a bullet point. And me, as a youngster, showing my mom some simple way to protect the environment, I could say that, Mom, to protect the environment, please refuse the awful plastic bags when you go to the market or supermarket. Or when you go to the supermarket, please reduce the consumption of food to avoid food waste. But like in Caucasians, the bullet points are written again and again, and the same solution are mentioned over and over again. And from children to the adult, they will go with the flows, notice the problems, and then completely change the action. So please just simply raise our voice on the action for climate change so that everyone around can aware of the problems. But just a couple of people in a network is quite still small in comparison with the global issue. So I led myself to the third level of leadership, which is creating a social impact with my very first project, group project. That is the project raising awareness of youngsters about waste management, about sustainable consumption, and also about the green living choices. And then I drive the perception on those issues into the action so that they can have the encouragement to choose the zero waste lifestyle. But I realized that the theories, which is the waste burden, can worsen the climate condition, is not persuasive enough for them to drive their actions and to change the habits completely. So I take them to the waste treatment factory so that they can directly witness how scary, how struggling the waste treatment process is. Immediately, they change the awareness of why waste does matter to people at first, and then why waste does matter to the environment, and why waste can be the factor worsen climate change. One package or one mountain of waste on the laptops on the screen may make them grimace and then close down the laptop. But a mountain of waste in the real life in front of their eyes will make them think about the problems deeply, profoundly, and then they start to bring their own bottle of waters to, instead of using plastic bottle or single-use paper cup to hold beverage, they use glass bag instead of using plastic bag to hold their things. That is very positive signal that I received in my projects. Just the high school student can aware the problems and then they try to change in the action. After the national success, quite national success of my projects, I lead myself to the second project about climate change, which is the 4G project, Global Garbage to Green Garden projects. It is the regional scale projects, raising awareness Southeast Asia youngster, not only in Vietnam, but Southeast Asia youngster about climate change with 3 factors. The first one is plastic waste, the second one is waste waste, and the last one is planting tree. So what is the relations among 3 factors? Well, we always have in our mind the measurements that to tackle or to slow down the process of climate change, we should plant more trees, right? And then we should reduce the greenhouse gases emissions to the Earth's atmosphere in the decomposing waste or in the decomposing process of waste, especially plastic waste. So combining 2 measurements, I come up with the initiative, which is the vertical garden encouragements among Southeast Asia youngsters so they can take advantage of plastic waste in every kind of waste and then turn it into the tree pot. And how about the waste waste? I encourage them to turn the waste waste into the organic fertilizer to plant tree. Yeah, we have the very small and cute vertical garden at home, right? Which take advantage of all recycled material. I think that it is very lively and engaging activities to involve the youngster in Southeast Asia in the climate action. All of the initiatives are educational oriented because I always have in my mind the concept that education's mission is to make people better every day, not just to provide them with raw materials, raw information for their references. So I try to seek myself many creative approach as possible so that I can have like appropriate grades and also creative way to have the climate education in youngster. But first, let's give them a space to express their understanding and also their solution for climate change without any judgment. They can make mistakes in the pathway of being like a captain of the flight, but after making the mistake, they will be better every day. And I want them to be better every day with the educational-oriented projects. And please have the empathetics or like the respect with any single discussion that they generate, so they can feel that they are worthy in their driving change flight for the climate action. And then we will orient their perception and consolidate their action by easy to approach or engaging actions. So just 3 levels, but 1 process. Why? Because in the pathway of being a leader or being a captain on the flight, we have like the creating domino effects when we show a small achievement on like our journey of going green. For example, like we show our parents with a very small Q3 pot. We show that we have like a personal bottle that our friends want to have one too. And then we create like the dialogue for everyone can be involved in the discussion for climate solution. And the last one we will create like the social impacts, it is not like the very big projects, but just small projects at first, and then extend it into the scale of national or something like this. And 3 levels with all ages. Yeah, because we all have a stereotype that just youth can be leaders to drive change in the world, to be like the factor for climate action, not the adult, right? But I want to involve the adult in 3 levels of being a captain of that self-driving flight so that they can be like a good example for the youngster. And this is the ways that I become like a leader for climate change with 3 empowering steps because I want to empower people around to be the leader. So it is more than just the environmental issue, but the human responsibility and also the human destiny. It is more than the obligation for the environment, but the encouragements for the environment. And it is more than people have to do it, but want to do it. It is more than just the youth involved in the action for the environmental issue, but the whole people, the adult as our example. It is more than just 1 point of awareness, but a long process. We start with the small action. And it is more than our own voice, but the climate voice. So please be the climate voice, and please be the captain or the leaders in the self-driving flight to driving the change in the climate condition. Yeah, and that is all the journeys I want to share with you today. And thank you so much for listening.